Hello Year 7, it's Miss Redmond here again with your second lesson in the cells topic. This one is called How Are Plant and Animal Cells Different? Please go and get a pen and a piece of paper if you haven't already so that you can make notes and complete the tasks as we go through. At the bottom, you've got the learning objectives for this lesson. Feel free to write those down. And you've also got a DNA here to do, which is what is the difference between animals and plants. Please write down your ideas, and if you want to check them, you can send them in to your teacher. Okay, this link is really cool animation showing the scale of the universe. So you can scroll out to see the scale of the entire observable universe, and you can scroll down to see the smallest known things. It's really cool because you get an idea about what size cells are compared to lots of other things. All right, here we've got a diagram of an animal cell on the left and a plant cell on the right. Both animal and plant cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, and mitochondria, with a couple of exceptions. Some cells don't have a nucleus. We'll get on to one of those in the specialized cells topic. Plant cells, as well as having these four, also have chloroplasts, vacuoles, and cell wall. And we will find out what those different things do in a moment. All right, the things inside a cell, which I just listed, are called organelles, that's the old-fashioned word, or subcellular structures. So the key word that you need to know is subcellular structures, but you might also hear them referred to as organelles. So what do the different parts of the cell do? And for a bonus, why have I grouped the organelles into two sections? So write down that list, and if you can remember from being in school, also write down what those parts do. If you don't remember, keep watching. Okay, here's the parts of a cell song that I've played in lessons. So feel free to pause the video and go and find this YouTube video to learn about parts of the cell. Just a note, it describes the nucleus as the brain of the cell, which is a description which I don't like, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So the cytoplasm is where all of the reactions in the cell happen. So if you're searching on Google about cells to help you with your homework or to help you revise, you are going to see loads of really super detailed diagrams, some of which look like this, with lots of extra bits in the cell that you don't need to know about. So don't be confused, just refer back to the diagram that's in this PowerPoint. But yeah, the cytoplasm is just the jelly-like substance that fills up the cell, and that's where all of the really important chemical reactions happen. Here's the nucleus. It contains your DNA, so all of your genetic information, all of the genes which go to make up you. I like to think of this as the code book of the cell because it stores information. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the brain of the cell because your brain also stores information. However, I don't like that description because your brain also has lots of other functions. It receives and sends signals all around your body to control your movement and control what your organs are doing. Your brain, it allows you to have thoughts and feelings and a personality, and your DNA in your nucleus doesn't do any of that. It's just a store of information. So for that reason, I prefer the analogy of the code book to the analogy of the brain. And there's also a little English and science crossover there because the word analogy means when you're describing something as being like another thing. So I'm saying that the nucleus is like the code book of the cell rather than like the brain of the cell. The cell membrane goes around the outside of every single cell, plant cells and animal cells, and on a plant cell it's inside the cell wall. You can think of it like an envelope, and it controls what goes in and out of the cell, a bit like a security guard. The mitochondria are where respiration happens, and respiration is the reaction which gives us energy. So here's another really detailed diagram of a cell, and the mitochondria are actually way smaller than that compared to the size of the cell. They've just expanded them to make them look bigger in that diagram. So plant cells and animal cells have mitochondria, and cells that need more energy have more mitochondria. That's an idea we'll come back to when we do specialized cells. Chloroplasts are where photosynthesis happens. Photosynthesis is the process which plants use to make food. So that's why you find chloroplasts in plants but not in animals, because animals eat in order to get food. The vacuole in plant cells stores food, water and waste. Some animal cells contain a small vacuole, but it's not permanent. So you might hear the vacuole referred to as a large permanent vacuole. And there's also unicellular organisms which have different types of vacuole, and we'll get onto those when we talk about unicellular organisms. So I've got this little picture on there to remind you that the vacuole stores things. And the stuff inside the vacuole is known as the cell sap. So when you break open a plant stem, that's the stuff that oozes out, the cell sap from inside the vacuole. The cell wall in a plant cell gives rigidity to the cell, and as I was saying earlier, it's on the outside of the cell membrane. So the cell membrane is on the inside of the cell wall, and it's doing its job of controlling what goes in and out of the cell, and the cell wall gives rigidity. So that's why plants don't have a skeleton like we do, or an exoskeleton like insects and crustaceans do. Their structure is provided by the cell wall of their individual cells. Okay, here's a little task that you can do, 2 truths and a lie. Write down 2 facts you've learned today and then create a lie. Try and make sure it's believable. This says swap books with your partner. Did they get it right? Well, you could do this with one of your mates over the internet in some way, or you could do this with somebody from your house. See if they can spot the lie from the truth. And here's your summary. Animal and plant cells contain nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane and mitochondria. Plant cells, as well as those 4 things, also contain chloroplasts, large permanent vacuole and a cell wall. The things inside the cell are called subcellular structures, and the jobs of the subcellular structures are cytoplasm, where reactions happen. Nucleus contains the DNA. It's the code book of the cell, not the brain. Cell membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell. Mitochondria is where respiration happens to provide energy. Chloroplasts are where photosynthesis happens to provide food. The vacuole stores food, water and waste. And the cell wall gives rigidity to the cell and, in fact, structure to the entire plant. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you next time.